Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is another episode of Under the Scope. I am your host, Kimberlon B. I'm excited to be here with you, and I'm glad that you're here with me. All right, so just a little bit about me before we get this train going. I am a licensed professional counselor. I created the scopecast because I wanted to bring influential people on the planet to this place so they can talk about their talents and their skills. And the most important thing about it that I find really absolutely exciting about them is their contribution to mental health awareness. So I talked on my video and I was saying that August was fire. That's when I first launched it. It was great. Those speakers came out the gate, just tearing things down. But September is the bomb.com, and I'm excited on who we have coming on the scene. So let me not even delay this any further. I do want to throw out a disclaimer that any information that's here on Under the Scope is for conversational, educational, and inspirational purpose. This is a no judgment zone. You can say what you want to say, ask questions as long as it's not disrespectful. And any information that we talk about on this show is not a substitute for a higher level of care. So without further ado, we're getting ready to get started. What I want to say is I want to intro this person just a little bit because I said on my video that this person is special to me, and I think I've known this person probably longer than I've known some of my best friends. As a matter of fact, I feel like real close to her. And so not that she's special, but my other guest is special too. But the reason she's near and dear special to me is because she's my daughter. And so I'm glad that she decided to come on here to go under the scope to talk to us about misandry and mental health. So Kayla, I'm gonna turn it over to you. Can you intro yourself?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Kayla Janiece. I'm 28. I am a high school teacher. I am a single mother of 4 children, 2 exceptional. I am a special education teacher, and I've been doing that for 8 years now.
Kayla, your
Yes.
internet. Your internet is low. I thought it was my internet this time, but it's yours. Your internet.
Oh, okay.
Hang on, everyone.
Let me see. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you jump on your phone?
Phone? I could. Let me see if I can jump. Can I jump on from the Facebook page? Like choices thing? Let me get joined and see if I can go from my phone.
Hold on, y'all. Just technical difficulties.
Okay, I'm here. Can you let me?
And then mute the other one.
Oh, you are here. Okay. And yeah, mute the other one, Kayla. And unmute this one. Uh-oh. Just a second, everyone. She disappeared. She's in here, but I don't know where she went. So everyone, while she's up there, oh wait, she's coming back. She's connecting back with us. While she's connecting in, I want to thank everybody for joining us. There you go. Can you hear us?
I can hear you great. Can you
Oh
hear
yeah.
me?
Oh gosh, yes, that's a lot better.
Okay, okay, awesome.
All right, so start your intro over.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Kayla Janiece. I am 28. I am a high school special education teacher. I've been doing that for 8 years now. I'm a single mom. I have 4 kids. 2 of them are exceptional. I'm also a small business owner. I have my own online math tutoring business. I'm a CEO of a nonprofit, and I am also a misandrist.
Okay. All right. So I'm glad that you brought that up because inquiry minds want to know, right? I know I'm your mom, but I'm interviewing you. So I just want to know too, like, I've heard you say it and I've seen a couple of posts where you post about it. And I wanted to bring you on the show to ask you about what exactly is a misandrist?
Okay, so I mean, if you go to Google and you look up what a misandrist is, you will see the definition about someone who belittles men or someone who hates men. But to me, it kind of means much more than that. This system that we live under, this system of oppression is patriarchy. And that's really the belief that men should hold all the power. And as a misandrist, I'm saying, no, I don't believe that. I believe that women should hold all the power. And a lot of people, when they hear misandry, they think about feminism. Feminism is the belief that, women and men should be equal, but misandry is the belief that women are superior to men. And so that's kind of how I live my life.
So the belief that you are superior to men.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's kind of like the short of it. I mean, there's other, like, I mean, I just think about how, like, in certain positions, I mean, if you look at it, in certain positions, men kind of overpower the scene. If you look at the IT positions, more than likely someone in IT is going to be a white male. They're going to be male most certainly, but most oftentimes they're going to be a white male. And whereas, like, in a classroom position, you're more often than not going to see a teacher. So, I mean, I'm of the belief that we are far more superior. We have more to bring to the table. We have great ideas too that should be implemented and given concern to.
Got it. So how did it actually come about? I hate to say it because it's like I'm segregating it, but how did
Right.
misandry actually come about?
So I was married and in a relationship for 8 years. I got married pretty young. We had kids together. And even though I was married, I realized from that like there was a lot of women going through the same things that I was going through, and they were not married. So there's a belief that if you get married, then you won't have to deal with a lot of the things that you have to deal with when you're a single woman, and that's not true. I did things the right way. I went to marriage counseling. I got married. We had kids. I did things the way that we are taught and brought up to do, and I still face like the same kind of consequences. So when I was online in a bunch of different Facebook circles, I found that a lot of women were going through the same things that I was going through, and they identified as misandrous. So I started looking into what misandry really was, and it's really more so, it's bigger than a Facebook, something that you put in your Facebook bio. It's like it's a lifestyle. I live and I breathe misandry, and I live and I breathe the belief that women and other non-men, so other people who don't necessarily identify as women that are not cis men, I do believe that we should hold all the power and we should be the ones looked to as far as making decisions, because more often than not, we are better at these things. We're just not given the credit because we're women and we're viewed as, because we're not men, and therefore we're viewed as more inferior and unable to make these types of decisions. So I'm of the belief in the lifestyle that actually, you know what, I do know what's best for this family. I do know what I can bring these different skill sets and talents and abilities and drive this company forward.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And I know that you said, just to clarify, like the non-men.
Yeah.
non-men and cis men. Do you want to just take a couple of minutes to explain that so people
Yeah,
understand?
absolutely. So someone who's cis is someone who identifies or lives out the gender that they were assigned as birth. So when I say cis men, I'm referring to men or to people who were assigned male at birth. They were born with a penis, and that's how they live their life. They wear clothes typically identified or typically associated with men, and they do things and engage in behaviors typically associated with that of men. So when I say cis men, that's what I'm referring to. There are people in this world that are trans, meaning they were assigned male at birth, but who they really are is not the person that agrees with the parts, right? So
Hmm.
it can be someone who's like trans, meaning they were born with male assigned genitalia, but they live out their lives as the women that they truly are. And so when I'm referring to cis men, that's what I mean. I mean men who were born with the male with genitalia typically associated with males, and that's how they choose to live their life. I've noticed that they're given a lot more power and different. I mean, it happens all the time. I think about custody courts and how a cis man is more than likely to, if he goes to custody court, he's more likely to get awarded that, whether it's joint custody or full custody, not necessarily because he's the better parent, not necessarily because it's what's best for the child, but it's because of his maleness. It kind of has a privilege associated with that.
Hmm.
It's really complex because it's embedded into a lot of the systems that we have built in place that we're under, the systems of oppression anyway.
Got it. Got it. I totally understand. I was like, wow, okay. That's what misandry is. Awesome. So can you debunk some of the myths that may be associated with it? Because some of the things I know people would probably say,
Hmm.
right, is that you have what, three sons,
Yes.
right? Oh
Uh-huh.
gosh, y'all got a lot of grandkids that throw that disclaimer in that you have three sons
Hmm.
and you have a fiance.
Right.
So how does that all work together?
So it's interesting because I like whenever women or whenever people ask me, how can you be a misandrist? Like, how can you have like a distaste and a general distrust of all men, but be associated with men in that capacity, like in a romantic capacity? Or how can you be like have a general, distaste and distrust for men and have sons? And it's interesting because what I'm finding is that we don't ask men that. We don't ask men, hey, how is it that, you can be abusive to the mother of your children, but take your daughter to school every day? Like, no one ever questions that. And what I say is compartmentalization. I mean, it's the same thing that men do, right? A man can cheat on his wife and dog her out, but be considered the best dad of the year, you know? And I think that that's important too. Like, I'm very much a misandrist, and I'm very much under the belief that women should be far more superior. But I mean, sexuality is something that you can't help. We don't choose who we love. We don't choose who we're attracted to. So I am still very much attracted to men, which is why I'm attracted to and I'm in love with my fiance. But when I discuss the topics and the things that I discuss online, like about abuse and mistreatment and things like that, it doesn't apply to him. So I'm able
Okay.
to compartmentalize the way I feel about the male collective and, still have a loving and a healthy relationship with him and still have a loving and a healthy relationship with my sons. And it's interesting too because, patriarchy and misogyny. So patriarchy is a belief that all males should hold power. Misogyny is a general hatred of women. I can recognize those things in my sons, whether it's, them over talking their sister or things like that. I can recognize those behaviors and do things and say things to quell them while they're younger so that they have an undeniable love, honor, and respect for the women in their lives, whether they're involved with them romantically or not. I don't want my sons to grow up and be like the male collective. I don't want them to grow up and have babies with different women, in different households and not care for any of them, like a lot of these issues that we're seeing in our community and beyond. I don't want my sons to partake in that. So me, believing that women and non-men should be loved, honored, and respected, I instill that in my son. They're going to be complete gentlemen. Well, at least I hope so anyway, with my training. They'll grow up and be complete gentlemen. They'll be providers. They'll be protectors. All those things that men should be,
Mm-hmm.
you know, right.
Mm-hmm. Got it. All right. So moving into the second part, and everyone, I forgot to say at the beginning, at the end, we'll have time to ask questions. So if you want
Yeah.
to put questions in the chat, put your name in the chat if you would like to ask your own questions, or if you would like for me to ask the questions, just put them in the chat. All right. So Kayla, here comes my favorite part. And I love talking about mental health. That's why I created Under the Scope to begin with. And I ask everyone that comes to the show that goes under the scope this question: what is your definition of mental health?
So when I think about mental health, for me, I think about, being able to have a clear mind, being able to have peace. So health is wellness, and that's overall. So, I mean, for me, what kind of led to my mental health issues, I would say would definitely be like the collapse of my marriage and all of the behaviors that kind of led to that. So to me, that's just having unlimited peace and being completely secure in who you are and, what you're going to accomplish. And mental health is just, I mean, it's just being well and able to articulate and communicate the things that you need and not feeling guilty about it and being, confident in your stances, whether that's politically or just, your stances at work. It's just being free and just having peace. When I think about mental health, that's what I think. I think about the overwhelming amount of peace that I have when I don't feel depressed, when I don't feel anxious.
Got it. Got it. All right. So, how would you say that misandry ties into mental health?
I've been waiting for you to ask me this.
Okay.
So okay, I believe that women and non-men or other people of marginalized genders, I actually prefer that term better, MAGES, we're socialized to prioritize the needs of men, to prioritize having a man in our life, the man of the house, the provider. We're socialized from little girls. We're playing with dolls. We're having them get married, and for me, when I started rerouting that energy I was putting into men who didn't deserve it, or just putting into men overall, when I started rerouting that energy into myself and
Okay.
really, as opposed to worrying about if he's okay, I started worrying about, okay, am I okay? Instead
Hmm.
of encouraging him to go to therapy, I started going to therapy. So for me, the less that I cared about pretty much the less that I mean, to be honest, the less that I cared about what men go through, the more I started caring about what I was going through and my suffering and what I was feeling. And I read books and I started going to therapy and really investing in that. So I think for me, misandry is freedom because I'm not concerned with prioritizing anybody else's needs over my own. I'm not concerned with prioritizing anyone's mental health over my own. So I'm able to devote that energy and reroute that energy into things that make me happy, into things that bring me that the overwhelming amount of peace that I feel, now that I'm not concerned about the things that don't serve me.
Wow. Okay. Is there any other, I know we kind of talked through this. Are there any other myths or anything that you wanted to debunk right now that we didn't cover, outside of you have sons, you have a fiance, any other myths?
Yeah. I do also want to debunk the myth that misandry simply means that you hate men, because it's really more complex than that. I mean, that could be part of it, but it's really more complex than that, because if you think about misogyny and the amount of hatred that men have for women, the worst thing that I've ever done is probably hurt a man's feelings. But then when you look at what men have done with their hatred of us, they have abused us, they have murdered us, they have mistreated us, they have also abused, mistreat, and hurt our children. I've never killed a man. I've never killed a young child that was a boy. I've never done anything that you see when you look on the other side of the coin. you know? So when people try to, like, misandry, I guess a myth that I want to really debunk is that misandry is the same thing as misogyny, because it's simply not. Because even though I'm a misandrist and I do believe that women are far more superior, patriarchy and the belief that men should hold all the power, it's still a thing. So I can be mad, but the what a man can do with his anger versus what me, a woman, can do with my anger are still two totally different things. Another myth too is that misandry came first. Misogyny and patriarchy came first. Misandry is a reaction to that. If men didn't hate women, if men didn't oppress women, if men didn't abuse women, if men didn't mistreat women, there would be nothing for me to react to. There wouldn't be anything for me to say no to. But because those things have happened and continue to happen, misandry is just taking a stance and saying, no, I've had enough. I'm not going to deal with the things that no longer serve me. I'm not going to be comfortable with going 50-50 if I feel in my heart that a man should be a full provider. I'm not going to accept less than I deserve, you know? And I really think that when people say, oh, well, you just hate men, you're just bitter. You know, I'm a very loving person. I'm a very bubbly person. I'm a very playful and energetic and vivacious person. I'm not a bitter woman. What is there to be bitter about? If it doesn't serve me, I move on from that. You
Got
know,
it.
and I do the things that serve me. There's just this big view that, you know, because you're a misandrist, you don't date men, or you don't, you know, have sexual relations with men, you don't marry men. And that's simply not true, because if you compartmentalize and, you know, you associate with the men who don't partake in the behaviors that are destructive to the community, it really is a loving and you know, and fruitful relationship.
Right. Awesome. So I have another question for you, because
Okay.
September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and everyone that's coming on the show, I want to ask them like their take as far as suicide prevention. Do you think that there's a correlation between being a misandrist and suicide?
If there's a correlation, it's negative, because again, like I said, me personally, when I became a misandrist, I really started investing in my mental health and investing in repairing myself from the things that broke me initially. And I think that because I'm a misandrist and now I have alleviated myself of that burden of prioritizing what my partner wants and really prioritizing what I want, I now have better control of my mental health. And I think so, like I said, if there is a correlation, I believe it's negative, because it's really saying no, no more. And women endure a lot of trauma being in relationships. I mean, childbirth in and of itself, that's a traumatic experience. And then just being in a relationship, you know, it's funny. I think about like men going to the grocery store and how, you know, a lot of women complain about that. And it's like, oh, well, they say, you know, men are stupid and men can't do this and men can't do that. And I'm of the belief that you just need to hold them to a higher standard. So the men that I date and the men that I see, they're of a higher standard of men, you know? And I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent there. But again, like I said in the beginning, you know, when you're a misandrist, you really focus on what serves you and you really eliminate the things that don't, and that improves your mental health drastically. So, I mean, I have been suicidal, but I'm not now, but I definitely have been in the past. And it was because of all the trauma that I was enduring and the relationship where I was not priority, where I did not prioritize myself. And so now that I've taken this stance that I'm not going to accept less than I deserve, I don't really have those thoughts anymore, you know, because I'm not plagued with the burden of having to deal with somebody else's mental health issues. I'm just focusing on my own and investing in correcting those as
Okay.
priority.
So, taking this stance, being a misandrist, and you know, and I know you talk about the others. You know, it gets complicated for me.
Hmm.
Have you ever faced like any backlash from
I think
people that have beliefs different than yours?
absolutely. So, I will talk about the men first because I have had my life threatened. I definitely have. I've had men say that they were going to send someone to hurt me because of my very strong beliefs that men are inferior to women or should be inferior to women and non-men, femmes. And like I said, I've had men threaten me. I've had men challenge me a lot online because of my views. And there's also women too, women and other Madges who, they were kind of they embody the belief that, okay, if I cook enough, if I clean enough, if I have sex with him enough, if I, prioritize his needs, then I'll be okay. They're of the belief that marriage saves you from having to deal with a lot that the single women deal with. And that's just simply not true. Marriage is a faction of patriarchy. I mean, men are the ones who decided that the woman should stay at home while they provide. And it's really interesting because a lot of backlash that I face is because my fiance is a provider in full, I don't pay any bills. The money that I get, I spend that for my business. I spend that for my kids. But as far as like the bills and things, he takes care of that. And I face a lot of backlash for that in particular. But it's funny because it's like, men, you're the one who set this up, but it no longer serves you to have to do that, or you see how much it benefits a woman to do that. So now it's bad. So it's just really interesting. But I definitely do feel unsafe. Like when I go out into the community, I have what's the word? I consider it a healthy suspicion of men, because I mean, there's been women who have been killed on the street for not returning cat calls or advances. So I'm very much afraid, but also too, the backlash that I faced online for having such strong views. People often share my posts that are public. They share them and I read the shares, and it's men, calling me all types of obscene things online and really disparaging things. And it's just really interesting because it's like, okay, my stance, how I feel about these things. Why even entertain a person like me if you know how I feel about those types of things? I don't know. It's just interesting.
Okay. All right. So, before I turn the floor and open it to everyone, if
Okay.
you want to start sending your questions now, are there any businesses or resources that you'll like to promote?
Yes. Okay. So I actually have an online math tutoring business. It wasn't always online. It used to be in person, but COVID definitely had me change up my plans. So I have an online tutoring business. It is called Common Denominators Tutoring. My target age range is anywhere from 7 to 17. So I really want to help those students in elementary school and those students in high school in particular, especially the students with, special needs, who kind of need that more one-on-one targeted instruction shaped to their interests and their strengths and their needs, to feel more connected to the material and want to engage in it more. So I've been doing that since November of last year. So I would say that's the first one. And then I also am the CEO of an emerging nonprofit. I say emerging because we just incorporated July 28th. We're very, very new. And that nonprofit organization is called Madges Relief Incorporated. We're incorporated in Georgia, but our plan is to service Madges everywhere. A Madge is a person of a marginalized gender. There are not two genders. Genders on a spectrum. That's something that we as people have to learn. There's not just men and women. There's all types of people, non-binary people, genderqueer people, gender fluid people. And we really want to help those who are marginalized. And again, by marginalized, I mean they're not priority in society. Cis men are at the highest level of privilege, and then everybody else falls underneath that. We want to help the people who are disadvantaged and disenfranchised based on their gender. So we want to help like in the areas of housing. We want to help in the area of economic support, academic support, direct relief funds, so like rent relief, and if they need help getting to their therapy appointments, because I know transportation is another area of need for a lot of Madges. We don't have access to transportation, not reliable anyway. We want to help alleviate that burden as well. And then lastly, transition support, specifically transition support in the area of, transitioning from one job to the next, or even people who want to come out. And when I say come out, I mean people who are coming out with their sexuality and embracing who they are. We want to have resources and support in place for them.
All right. Awesome. Where can we find you at? Find you at?
So I'm on Facebook under Kayla Janiece. And we don't yet have a website for Magis Relief, but I do post updates and things about Magis Relief on there. So you can definitely find me on Facebook. You can, for tutoring, and I can also put this in the chat too, you can email me at info@cdtutoring.com. I'm booking, consultations are free. And during that consultation, we kind of look at whether or not your student or whoever you're signing up, whether they're going to benefit from one-on-one more targeted instruction, or if they can benefit from like a small group setting where they get access to the content, but also access to the social environment, working with other students as well.
Okay, awesome. All right, anything else you want to add? Any final remarks or anything before we open the floor?
Yes. Now, this is a totally biased opinion, but I really do believe that anyone who is not a man should at least look into misandry. And I mean, like I said, I am biased, but I do believe that all people who are not men should be misandrist. I really do believe that because it's very freeing. And I mean, it's a label, and I know a lot of people like to get away from labels, but I definitely think that since I have become a misandrist and really started to invest in myself and my goals fully and prioritizing that, I'm free. I feel so free right now. I feel more free than what I've ever been because I rerouted that energy and that unyielding devotion to men and prioritizing the men in my life to prioritizing myself, prioritizing my children. And because I'm a better person, because my mental health has improved, you know, I'm able to be that support to my children, specifically my children who have exceptional needs.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks. All right. I'm ready to open up the floor for any questions.
Come on.
Is that you, Choice?
It is.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
Bring the fire. So I got a couple of things on my mind right now. And congratulations, by the way, because I had no clue what it was. And I probably can't even pronounce the word right now. So I have this 15-year-old in the house with me that I simply refuse to degrade women. He wants to think he's a young player. So
Okay.
he claims he has this girl that he really likes. Then he has this other girl helping him in class. So he made a tragic mistake. So right now I'm on his level and I'm in his business. So
Right.
he did something. Instead of me going here, I came here and I'm like this. We're one, baby. I see
Yes.
everything he does on Teams and he does not like me in this business. Every time they have a chat, it pops up, bam, it's come up on my iPad. I see it coming. I go in chat and I read. I never said not one word until he made the next mistake. You only get two, not one, two.
Oh, okay.
Not three, two. Then it was my turn, and then I intervened. But I said, how are you going to say, I think this girl over here is going to be my side hoe? I was like, excuse me?
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. I was living, but yet you like this girl over here. I said, that's just like calling your mama and me one. No.
Right. Exactly.
So dealing with that, that's the issue right now. So right now I done brought him down. I done brought him down. Ask him. Because how are you going to say you like this girl over here and this is your girlfriend? No, Nani, don't do that. But yet you telling your friend over here in chat that this is what's going on. See, guys, a lot of I'll be in chat and I'll be looking, I may not say nothing.
Right.
I'm watching.
Yes.
Because now you have invited me to come to school with you.
Right.
So now I'm in class all day.
Yes.
So the second thing is, I think my granddaughter is in that marginalized area.
Yes.
Okay, my granddaughter. And she sent me a friend's request and I didn't know it was her. So I called her. I said, is this you? She's like, yeah. I said, okay. And then she told me what was going on. I was the first person that she told, and she friended on Facebook with her new name. And so I asked, is that what you want? Do you want me to call you by your this name, or you want me to call you that name? She said, I want you to call me this name. It's only because there's other people here, so I have to do it like this.
Right.
And I was like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, thank you for sharing with me. She's like, I hadn't told my parents or anything yet or discussed.
Wow.
So for her to come to me,
Yes.
I was like, oh my word. You know, I was all
Yeah.
jittery in the stomach. I was like, and I was thankful that I was there for her.
Yes.
And,
Absolutely.
and not being negative, but still, I'm still gonna have to learn how do I deal with.
Right.
So that's a whole nother ball game for me. And then I have coworkers that's coming from female to male,
Yes.
and then he talks to me. I was like, where are these people coming from talking to me? And it's because I got nosy. I said, why and what was going on with that? And I just got in there. I just got in the business then. And then he explained. I was calling her she forever.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm working on the he part because
Yes.
that's how I do. So those
Yes.
things are hard. And so how do you go from
Mm-hmm.
he to she to he to she and saying that? So to not judge.
Absolutely. So I actually learned about trans and I learned about gender fluid from one of my students. So some days he would come to school and he'd be Isaiah. Other days he'd come to school and he would be Violet. And we just rolled with it. But it really opened my eyes to gender, not just being man and woman. It's a spectrum, meaning it can happen, meaning I mean, there's all types of genders. And it is all about being open, you know? And I think about how the LGBTQ community is so there's so much education out there, and it's really not educating themselves, the members of the community, about, you know, what it is. It's really to educate other people so that there's that hope for understanding. And I do love the fact that you are the person that they went to, because I just feel like you're really open and really hold on, baby. I feel like you're really open and really supportive. And when we go out and we feed the homeless on Saturdays, we've seen children 13 and 14 out in the parks because they're trans, because they're queer. And their parents, you know, put them out. So they're out with no home, begging for food, nowhere to go, you know? And I do think about the fact that there's not a lot of support with teenagers who are queer, who are trans, who come out, you know, out please, out please. Sorry.
That's my girl.
Okay, I'm gonna be out in a little bit, okay? Sarai, go have a seat,
I
please.
knew that was my girl.
Thank you. So I do think that that is important, and I think that speaks to the type of person that you are, the fact that so many people are coming to you and entrusting that in you, because coming out is really a deeply personal and a big decision, because there's so much backlash, you know, for people coming out and being their true selves. And I just think like I said, I just think that's a testament to the type of person that you are, and your willingness to support them in that, you know. I think that's amazing. And as far as you said it was your grandson, right? Who's, you know,
Granddaughter.
no,
Granddaughter.
I'm talking about the first
Grandson.
situation, your
Yeah.
grandson.
Yeah, I'm
I
raising.
think for me, I think about how, because I run into that too. I teach high school. They're 14, anywhere from 14 to 18, you
Mhm.
know, and I've ran across a lot. Like I've had to teach my students, not even math. Sometimes I have to teach them about consent, because they have no idea that if a girl is drunk, she cannot consent. You
Correct.
know, so I do think that the lessons that you're teaching him right now are invaluable, because I mean, he's going to end up running in, if you know, if that behavior doesn't quell, or you don't quell that behavior, he's going to end up getting into some very compromising situations. And I just find it interesting that that males are kind of brought up to be that way towards women. Whereas, because I'm a misandrist and I know what women and non-men and people of marginalized genders, I know what they go through. I'm raising my sons to be loving, you know, and to honor them and to respect them, and not just the ones that they're attracted to, you know,
Yes.
all of them, no matter size, shape, sexuality, anything. I want them to be priority, you know, and I want them to prioritize the women in their lives. Like, I don't teach my sons, oh, okay,
run through as many women as possible. And then when you're old and bald, then settle down. No, like my son is like, Mom, I want to get married. I know that I, as a man, have to pay all the bills. I have to get a good job, and that's the type of sons that I'm raising, you know. So I think that's important with your grandson to have those types of conversations about loving and honoring and respecting the women in his life. I am also a firm believer in like how you treat women is a reflection of you, right? It's not a reflection of the person that you're treating that way. And I tell my friends that too, like when they're going through stuff, how that person is treating you is not a reflection of you, that's a reflection of them. And if they want to have any meaningful relationships in the future, they're going to have to tighten up because one thing that's for sure, they're going to meet somebody that they're not going to be able to handle that. All that stuff that they try to pull, it's not going to work on that person because they're going to be hip to it, and they're probably going to be a misandrist.
All right. So, Mika has a question.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is, well, first of all, let me use my daughter-in-law who has made it home, so now I get to put her on the spot. So I'm use my daughter-in-law and my son as an example. So my daughter-in-law is, I'm going to assume, she's the breadwinner.
Okay.
And my son is, even though he makes, his income is decent and everything, but he's been more knowledgeable in as far as finances. And that's something I always encouraged him to teach himself. So he's been able to teach my daughter-in-law about, finances, so on and so forth. So they work together as a team.
Yes.
Even though she's the breadwinner, she enjoy having a man who can step up and take care of his household.
Yes.
Which is what most women want.
Right.
So as a, I don't want to say the word wrong, misandry. What is your aspect on that, on teamwork in the household? Of the, whether the man is the breadwinner or the woman is the breadwinner, but the man steps up and takes care of his household.
Yes.
But yet they work together as a team. What is your view on that?
Okay, so this is my view because I get that question a lot too. So when I think about 50-50, I think about the money. Of course, the money is important, but then I also think about household obligations because I'm completely fine going 50-50 on the bills if we're also going 50-50 on the housework, if we're also going 50-50 on raising children, because a lot of times what you'll find is that a lot of women are going 50-50 in relationships, but they're still taking care of the kids full time. They're still the only ones running the kids to the doctor's appointment, the only ones getting up with the kids in the morning, the only ones cooking, and the only ones cleaning, and then having to pay half the bills. I personally think that's ridiculous. But I think that if it is a true teamwork situation where the responsibility is shared and it's something that the woman is okay with, I'm 100% on board with that. In my household, I run it a little bit different because my fiance takes care of literally everything, right? Bills, housework, cleaning, but that's what works for us. If your daughter-in-law is, completely okay with that situation, if she doesn't feel burdened, if she feels like the workload and the share of responsibilities is fair, I think that's a fruitful situation that serves her. It's not going to have a negative impact on her mental health or a negative impact on her ability to, live her life to the fullest potential.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
You.
Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Absolutely.
Hi, Kayla.
Hi. Yeah. Hi.
Question. I'm going to show my face. Hold on. I just want to make sure. Hey, how are you?
Hi.
Hi, whoever said my name. So misandry it is?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'm getting enlightened today because I've never heard about that term in my life. So as I'm learning and as you're talking, I'm trying to understand. But I am looking up the definition of it.
Yeah.
And I don't like the definition. It says dislike of, contempt for, ingrained prejudice against men.
Right, yeah.
See it differently from what it's like traditionally been defined?
Yes.
Okay, what's your definition?
So to me, like I was saying earlier, when I think about misandry, I don't think about it like that definition that you look up on Google is so limiting, because for me, that's limiting, but for me, misandry is freeing. So I don't prioritize like how I used to prioritize. You see those ridiculous debates on Facebook. Whose plate do you make first? You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get with a man that's like, you have to feed me first. The type of men that I like are, let's feed the kids first, get them out of the way, and then let's eat. So for me, it's more so about just prioritizing the things that serve me personally. I don't want to be involved. I think about, okay, a really good example. I mean, we're all adults here. I think about sex, right? So I don't want to be with a man who is just concerned with doing what, getting his, right? I want to be involved with somebody who's like, I want her to get hers, because for some women, it does take more effort for us to kind of, get ours. So I need to be with somebody who prioritizes that in the way that I prioritize that. So I don't like that definition because it's bigger than that. And I also don't like that definition because when you look up misogyny, it's probably a similar definition, but the way that misandry is carried out is way different than the way misogyny is carried out. I'm a misandrist, and I believe that women and non-men are far superior than men, but I'm not going out killing men. I'm not going to kill a man because he turned me down. I'm not going to kill a man because, I just feel like I'm unsafe around them. So I think that again, that Google definition, I'm on the phone. I mean, I'm in an interview. Go, please. Go, please. So I'm of the belief that, I'm just more free because I'm just prioritizing myself. I'm prioritizing my children. Back in the day, it seems like, women and children kind of were seen as more of a priority. And I just don't feel that way now. I don't feel like women and children are really prioritized in the way that they are and the way that they should be. I think about the Black Lives Matter movement and how you see Black men getting killed, and that's where like all the newscasts, like that's what they're talking about. They're talking about George Floyd. But then when Breonna Taylor got killed, you didn't really hear anything, and she was killed months ago, and we're just now finding out about it. So I don't like that definition because I feel like it's limiting, and misandry is actually freeing.
Yeah. And I think that's,
sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say maybe Marshall was gonna elaborate on that. I think about where it makes it seem like misandry hates men.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I think to the root of a lot of your message, I agree. I want to be treated with respect. I want to be treated with dignity. I'm a married woman. I have a really great husband, and I don't take him for granted. But even with that, I'm gonna master that. Say it again one more time.
Misogyny.
No, misogyny, right?
Misandry.
Oh, misandry. Yeah.
So you're saying, I put myself first, right? And I prefer to take care of myself first. But if you're in a relationship and both people have that mindset, then how can one person say the other person is wrong to begin with, right? So if I'm coming and saying, hey, I'm a misogynist, whatever, I'm this, right, to my husband, I'm gonna put myself first. I'm gonna make sure I get mine. I'm gonna make sure I'm taken care of. And then he in turn has that same mindset. How can I be mad at him if I'm introducing this concept of self first, which is, I think the root sounds selfish. And I think there are times you have to be selfish for the betterment of your mental health. You can't really do much for others if you're empty. But at the same time, I feel like we are filled up to pour out on others. And in order to teach that concept, you have to be willing to do it first, right? And so I think historically what you're explaining, where women have been mistreated, disrespected, I'm never going to support that. But at the same time, if anything, I think we should be putting a light on is we've been a great example of what you should be like, right? Versus adopting the man's way, which is, negative masculinity, right? And taking that on a woman's sense and saying, well, I'm going to do it too, because I need the respect you never gave me. That's kind of what I'm feeling this is like. But there's other things you're saying that I also agree with. And I'm like, so I'm just trying to put it all together.
It's interesting too, because I mean, people think that misandry and misogyny is the same thing, and it's not, because again, it's about power. At the end of the day, you know, all that my misandry does is really hurts feelings. That's it. But if a guy is misogynistic, he can murder me, walk away, you know, and get away with it. But if I murder a man because he was coming on to me aggressively, I'm looking at 20 years. And I'm not just saying that because of anecdotal thing. I mean, if you look at history, it's embedded in our history. A Black woman is killed by a Black man every 21 hours. So there's a problem, you know? And I think that we can continue to sit and be in denial that these things are going on, to live the life that we think we want to live. But I mean, I refuse to live that way. I'm a realist, and I'm looking at what's actually happening in front of me. And to go back to the question that I was asked in the beginning, what also kind of turned me on to misandry is looking up the statistics. A Black woman is more likely to die from murder from a man that she loves. So if my daughter is a straight woman, she's more likely to be harmed by him. And I don't like that. And there's no repercussions for that. Look, okay, so there's a lot of single moms in our community, right? What's the problem for that? Are women just so despicable that men just want to put babies in them and leave? What's, you know, what's causing that? You know, and I look at how single moms in our community, they're shamed, they're, you know, they're talked about, all of that. But then you have all these guys walking around who have 4 kids and 4 different households. So no, it's different. It's your husband's selfishness or a man's selfishness is way different because he has more power than you. It's not in any way.
Do you think the misandry movement, though, is going to change the heart of men?
Oh, absolutely. So here's the thing. My fiance, my fiance was 16, his nephew was 3. His nephew was murdered by his sister's boyfriend. So when he met me and he learned about my strong opinions about men, he agreed with me. He said, you know what, men do need to be better. Because men, what do men say when they come across women who are in, you know, tough predicaments? They say, choose better. You should have chose better. Why did you have kids with him? You should have chose better. How can women choose better if there's not better? If we as women, and unfortunately, it has to be this way because men are typically not held accountable for the things that they do. But if we as women hold men accountable, we will have more success with that. If we as women, you know, turn men away who are not meeting our standards, we will have more successful relationships because they'll be with people willing to put in the work, you know? So, I mean, that's how I look at it. And I think it is. And if men are really listening to you and not saying, oh, well, that's not all men. If they're really listening to what we're saying, we're not lying. The way that I feel is not just based on my feelings, it's based on actual factual data. There's data to back up what I'm saying. Like I said, every 21 hours, a Black woman is killed by a Black man. That's a problem. And we can ignore it. We can be in denial because it feels good, but what is that going to change? Right?
Yeah.
What is that going to change? How has that served us now? You know, it's still very much a problem, you know? And again, these are questions that I get from women. These are not things that, you know, no one ever asks men, hey, you know, how is your misogyny going to help anything in the community? No one ever asks men that. So it's always funny to me when I get questions like this.
Yeah, I don't think so that men go around proudly calling themselves a misogynist and, you know, pushing a misogynistic movement. Maybe their lifestyle because of cultural conditioning has caused them to feel like it's acceptable, right? And let's be honest, there's even women, you don't, but there's women who raise their sons to be like that and how they treat themselves and how they treat other women, right? So there's a lot underneath it that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I think what you're saying, I agree 100%. Everything you're saying, all the statistics, all of that. I just think maybe the title in itself is going to make them a little murky for some people, right? And less acceptable, because I think every Black man in my life who loves me, if I'm saying what you're saying, they're going to be like, yes. But as soon as I put the title that you're putting on it and they find out what it means, they're going to be like, no. Like, I'm not going to fight for somebody who's basically saying they hate me, you know?
Yeah.
That could be.
And that's right. I don't want them to.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of men say that to me. How do you want me to protect you and you don't like me? Y'all don't protect me. You know, statistically, you don't protect me. And it's funny too, because a lot of women are like, well, I'm married. My husband is good. My husband is this. My husband is that. But there's a lot of husbands that still very much kill wives, you know? So again, It goes back to patriarchy and misogyny. Like I said, we can continue to sit comfortably in our denial about what's going on around us, or we can say, you know what? Yeah, my husband is really good, but there's a lot of women who are mistreated on the regular. I'm not okay
Right,
with
yeah, and it's not turning a
You know what
blind
I'm
eye to
saying?
anybody else's struggle or suffering, but also
Right, absolutely.
I
And
don't want to put a spotlight on evil and say everything's evil, every man is evil, because there's a large majority of them. It's appreciating the ones who are not, celebrating those ones, and asking them to help us be a voice, not be the only voice, but be a voice that makes our message
they should.
good. Yeah.
And as far as misandry and as far as like misogyny, I very much, my thing is this, when it comes to men, and I love my fiance because this is what he does. When it comes to addressing men, I don't feel like women should have to do that. I don't feel like we should have to do that. I'm not going to say it's not our place because I don't believe in that, but I believe that men should be holding other men accountable. But that doesn't happen. There are abusers, murderers, and rapists right now in our community who are not held accountable. So who's going to speak out against them if we don't? They're often protected. Think about how many people in our families are pedophiles and rapists and murderers who are males who are protected. You know what I'm saying? So you have to, I look at it on like a collective basis. I have a healthy suspicion of all men. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't necessarily mean I'm not going to engage with the ones that I'm going to engage with, but I think it's good for all women to feel that way. And there's enough, there's enough evidence for women to feel that way. Kazi, you said you had a comment?
Ew, I'm Kazi. So I do not, Kayla knows, I do not call myself a misandrist. I call myself a womanist, all that good stuff. But I definitely very strongly align with a lot of what misandry is. There's just slight nuances between maybe how I comport myself, how Kayla comports herself, whatever. That said, in response to, I don't remember what her name is, Michelle?
Marshall.
Michelle, hey.
Well,
in response to you saying that, the average man is not going around calling himself a misogynist, where Kayla may call herself a misandrist, it's not necessary for them to call themselves misogynists any more than it's necessary for white people to call themselves racist, right?
correct.
The system in which we live is the default, the status quo is misogynistic and white supremacist. There's no need to speak on your privilege when you own it. When we see people protesting Black Lives Matter, when we see them out in the streets, and we see white people and non-Black people say, your message, I understand what your message is, but it's a little bit too strong. You're not gonna get your point across. If I have to dial back my pain and my message and my oppression in order for it to be more palatable to you, then you are not reachable anyway. The onus is not on me to make my pain a comfort level for you.
Thank you. Yes.
The moment that we've been here as Black people, as people, it has been our responsibility to reduce the pain that we receive from the people in power.
Yep.
If I walk down the street, I shouldn't have to pretend to put headphones in my ear so that if a man catcalls me and I ignore him, my life is in danger. I didn't have to have keys between my knuckles when I walk from Target to my car because of the off chance that a man might hurt me. I shouldn't have to worry about my children, my 2 daughters, having to grow up and be at risk for simply existing as femmes in this world.
Right.
Our lives are in danger. The difference between misandry and misogyny is that, like Kayla said, misandry doesn't hurt. Misandry doesn't oppress. Misandry is not in the system where we make less, where, when we are at work and we have our children, our lives are completely just, thrown off kilter. I can be in a very loving relationship with a man, as Kayla is, and still hold them accountable to continue to unpack. The same way that me, as a cis woman, I'm not trans, I'm cis. I was assigned female at birth, and I align with female socially. But if a trans woman or a non-binary person says to me that I'm being problematic, it is not my responsibility or it's not their responsibility to say, well, I don't like the way you said that to me.
Right.
It doesn't feel good. Like, who cares? I benefit from the privilege of being what I was assigned at birth, as opposed to being heavily contrasted against it. So people can be upset. People can, like, when you Google racism, the Google definition of racism says that it's hate towards another race, when we know that that's not what racism is. We know that Kayla, as a Black femme, cannot be racist against a white person. She doesn't have the power. She doesn't exercise the power to do that. So when we look at the definition of misandry and it says hate towards men, oh, I hurt his feelings, I called him trash. He'll live, he'll survive, he'll live to be trash another day. Kayla is oppressed as a woman. Kayla's life is at risk, her job, her safety, everything is at risk. Like, so we can't just look at it, it's no different than a white person saying, oh, you're being reverse racist. That's fairy tale land. Those things don't exist.
Right.
So if a man's feelings is hurt by being called a misandrist, then you just want to lean into being trash. So you can be misandrist and you'll be okay. And you can unpack that later or don't and die mad about it.
Oh.
All right, Miss Joyce, you got a comment?
Yeah, this is good dialogue. Thanks, Marshall. Thanks for the dialogue. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Miss Joyce had one more comment, Mom, if that's okay.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Marcus. I'm Joyce's son.
It's actually Marcus that has the comment.
Oh, hi.
Listening to your guys' conversation just now and you speaking about the cultural conditioning of a male and how they treat women.
Yes.
What we have to understand is that it's not just a cultural conditioning. This actually started back way back in settler days and even biblical days.
Yes.
You have people still today who takes the Bible and look at the fact that Eve came from Adam's rib and that women are supposed to be considered lesser than. We also learned through our own research, there are books in the Bible that were written by women that were not included in the canon because they were women. You take it to the settler days, and whenever a woman spoke up, she got in trouble. So that whole mind frame is still brought into the world today. And if people, even men or female, don't understand where that mindset is coming from, then they're not able to change it or educate themselves.
Right.
And in most cases, like someone said, they're brought up that way. It's a product of their environment. Some people don't know how to break out of that product of their environment and be like, oh, you know what? I shouldn't be doing this. So the best thing is to do is get that person, it's going to be a challenge, and try to break them out of being part of that product. A good show to show a very good example of that is Handmaid's Tale. If you guys haven't watched it, check it out on Hulu. It will blow your mind. And basically, when you look at the previews for Handmaid's Tale, you're gonna be like, oh, this is a period piece. I don't think I want to watch this.
Right.
Oh, it's actually taking place in modern times.
Right.
And it shows you the rollback on women's rights. And it shows you the effect of the women who even helped institute those rights. So you also have to look at some women too who may be behind that man pushing that type of agenda.
Yes. Oh yeah.
But that's all I just wanted to add on. I got to go back.
No, thank you. That was very powerful. Yeah. Misogyny and patriarchy, they predate racism. Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That's a very good point. Like this is something that has been embedded into our society for centuries. This isn't new. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, this was really good.
Oh, just so you know, he's baking a peach cobbler. So you're welcome.
Okay, I love peach cobbler.
Well, my husband and my son cook. I don't.
See, I love that. I love that.
Some things I do, you know, like I heard certain things I do, but mostly they do the cooking.
Right. Yep.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
there to cook. Why not?
Exactly. And that's how I feel, like as far as the gender roles and things, you know, I married somebody who can cook. I'm marrying somebody who can cook really well. Why would I go in there and burn something up when I can get a nice homemade prepared meal for my fiance? You know, I feel that way too. But you know, society will tell you, oh, women are supposed to cook, get in that kitchen and slave away. You know, and I just don't feel that.
This was an awesome show, y'all. Okay, we went past the hour. We went past the hour and it wasn't my fault. No, I'm playing. This was a good show. Tell you it was fire. I wanted to just put everybody in the gallery and again to thank each and every one of you for coming. Each and every one of you are very influential to me. And I actually stalk a majority of you on Facebook. So I'll want you to come on Under the Scope. Thank you again, Kayla. Where can people find you? Talk about your businesses real fast. And I'll close the show out.
Okay, awesome. My Facebook name is Kayla Janiece, and Janiece is Janiece at Facebook. So that's my Facebook. If you are interested in tutoring services for your child, math tutoring services for your child, you can email me at info@cdtutoring.com. That's my website. You can also check me out at cdtutoring.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. If you thought this was hot, come back next week. I've already spoke to the other person. She is ready. And next week, it's a topic about forgiveness and how to forgive your mom. And she wrote a book. She's ready to tell her story. And she's showing up on the show. I just found out last night after talking with her that she's actually in Korea. So she's getting up at 5 in the morning to come to Under the Scope. So I hope to see each and every one of you on Under the Scope. Come back Saturdays, 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, where good tea and reads are welcome. Love you all. See you next time.
You.
Bye. Thanks. I thank everyone for coming. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Job, Kayla.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Kayla.
Good job, Kayla.
Bye, Miss Troy.
Great job.
That was fire, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Let me tell you, I had to suck like this in my seat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Talk to you in a minute, okay?
All right. Bye.
Bye.
One.